You've been good your whole life. You've helped people who never helped you back. You've loved people who betrayed you. You've given to those who only took. You've told the truth while watching liars succeed. You've worked hard while watching cheaters prosper. You've stayed loyal while watching manipulators climb. And through it all, you've suffered loss after loss, disappointment after disappointment, heartbreak after heartbreak. While the people who lied, who stole, who hurt others without remorse, they seem fine. They sleep well at night. They laugh easily. They have money, success, relationships. And you barely survive. You cry alone. You question everything. And worst of all, you wonder, what's the point of being good? If this is what goodness gets me, why not just become like them? You've asked God, the universe, fate, anyone who's listening, why? Why do I suffer when I try so hard to be good? Why do bad people win? And you've never gotten an answer that satisfies you, until now, because Rudolf Steiner, over a century ago, saw this exact injustice. He watched good souls crushed while evil souls thrived, and he didn't look away. He didn't give you religious platitudes or empty comfort. He looked deeper, into the mechanics of karma, reincarnation, and soul evolution. And what he found will either devastate you or set you free. Because the answer is brutal, but it's also the most important truth you'll ever hear. Here it is. Good people suffer more because they're evolving faster. And evolution is agony. Let me explain what that means. Steiner taught that every soul is on a journey. Some souls are young, just beginning their cycle of incarnations. Others are old, nearing the end of their journey through physical existence. And the difference between young souls and old souls determines everything. A young soul comes to Earth to learn basic lessons: survival, pleasure, power, ego. They haven't yet learned that taking doesn't satisfy, that lying doesn't fulfill, that hurting others ultimately hurts themselves, so they do those things without guilt, without consequence, without suffering, because they haven't developed the spiritual sensitivity to feel the weight of their actions. They are, in Steiner's words, spiritually asleep, and the asleep don't suffer. They don't question. They don't feel the depth of existence. They just move through life, taking what they want, doing what feels good, and never looking back. But you're not asleep. You're an old soul. And old souls have already lived through the lessons young souls are still learning. You already know that material success doesn't bring happiness. You already know that power over others is hollow. You already know that selfish pleasure leaves you empty. You learned these lessons lifetimes ago, and because you know them, you can't participate in the game anymore. You can't lie without feeling sick. You can't manipulate without hating yourself. You can't take without giving back. Your conscience won't allow it. And this is your curse, because while young souls chase illusions without resistance, you resist, and resistance creates suffering. But Steiner goes even deeper. He says that old souls don't just suffer more because they're awake. They suffer more because they chose to suffer. Before you were born, your soul looked at this lifetime and saw an opportunity to burn through massive amounts of karma in a short period of time, to accelerate your evolution, to learn in one life what would normally take 10. And suffering is the fastest teacher. Pain forces growth. Loss forces surrender. Betrayal forces wisdom. Injustice forces strength. So your soul said yes. Yes to the suffering. Yes to the unfairness. Yes to being good in a world that punishes goodness. Because you knew that on the other side of that suffering you would be free. Free from the need to incarnate into this dense, painful, material world ever again. Think about it. The people who hurt you, who betrayed you, who took from you, they're still trapped. They're still addicted to ego, to control, to material gain. They'll have to come back, life after life, until they finally learn what you already know. But you're almost done. This might be one of your last lives here, And the reason this life is so hard is because you're clearing the final debts, learning the final lessons, releasing the final attachments. You're in the purification stage. And purification is excruciating. Steiner used the metaphor of gold. To purify gold, you must put it in fire. The fire burns away impurities, leaving only what's pure. That's what's happening to you. Every betrayal burns away your need for human validation. Every loss burns away your attachment to material security. Every disappointment burns away your illusions about how life should be. You are being refined, stripped down, purified, and it hurts. God, it hurts. But when the fire is done, what remains will be unbreakable. Now here's where it gets even more brutal. Steiner taught that good people often incarnate into lives where they will be surrounded by bad people, not as punishment, but as training. Because how do you develop unconditional love? By loving people who don't deserve it. How do you develop forgiveness? By forgiving the unforgivable. How do you develop inner strength? By standing alone when everyone else falls. You didn't come here to have an easy life. You came here to master the hardest spiritual lessons a soul can learn. And you can't learn those lessons in comfort. You can only learn them in the fire. But young souls, they're not ready for that fire yet. They're still learning basic cause and effect. If they suffered the way you suffer, they would break. They would become bitter, cruel, destructive, so the universe protects them by giving them easier lives. Lives where their actions don't immediately destroy them. Lives where they can make mistakes without catastrophic consequences. It's not fair, but it's not supposed to be. Because fairness would mean everyone suffers equally, and equal suffering would mean no one evolves. The whole point of reincarnation, according to Steiner, is that souls learn at different speeds, and those who are ahead must carry a heavier load. Here's the part that might hurt the most. The people who hurt you were supposed to do that. Not because they're evil, but because your soul needed them to. On a higher level, beyond what your human mind can understand, you and they made an agreement. They agreed to play the villain in your story so you could learn forgiveness, detachment, and self-reliance. And you agreed to play the victim so they could accumulate the karma that would eventually force them to evolve. It's a brutal contract, but it's the only way souls grow, through opposition, through pain, through loss. And one day, many lifetimes from now, they will be where you are now, suffering the way you suffer, learning the way you learn, and they will finally understand what they put you through, but you won't be here to see it, because by then, you'll be free. Steiner taught that old souls, once they complete their earthly lessons, move on to higher realms, realms where suffering doesn't exist, where love is unconditional, where truth is the only language, where you never have to pretend, perform, or protect yourself again. That's what you're working toward. That's what all this pain is for. And every time you choose goodness despite suffering, every time you love despite betrayal, every time you give despite loss, you move one step closer to that freedom. Now I know what you're thinking. If being good just leads to more suffering, why not give up? Why not become selfish? Take what I want, stop caring about others. And the answer is simple: because you can't. You already tried. You've had moments where you wanted to be cold, to protect yourself, to stop giving. But you couldn't do it, because your soul is too evolved to go backward. It would feel like death, worse than death, because it would mean betraying everything you've worked lifetimes to become. You can't unknow what you know. You can't unfeel what you feel. You can't close your heart after it's been opened. So you're stuck being good in a world that punishes goodness, and that's the loneliest place a soul can be. But Steiner offers one final insight, and this is the part that will either break you or save you. He said that suffering is temporary, but consciousness is eternal. The pain you feel now will end. The betrayals, the losses, the injustices, they will all fade. But the awareness you gained from them, the strength you built, the love you chose despite it all, that will remain forever. You are building something indestructible inside yourself. A light that no one can take from you. A wisdom that no circumstance can erase. A love that no betrayal can destroy. And when you leave this body, when you finally shed this painful existence, that's what you take with you. Not the suffering, just the gold. So here's what Steiner would say to you if he were here right now. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. The universe is not cruel to you. It trusts you. It knows you can handle what others cannot. It knows you can love when others would hate, give when others would take, stand when others would fall, and it is asking you to do the impossible, to be good in a world that rewards evil. Not because goodness will make your life easier, but because goodness is who you are, and no amount of suffering can change that. The bad people you see thriving, they are not winning. They are delaying the inevitable. Every selfish act, every betrayal, every lie, it all accumulates. And one day the bill comes due. And when it does, they will suffer in ways you cannot imagine. Not because the universe is vengeful, but because karma is perfect. It always balances, always. But you're paying your debts now. You're clearing your karma in real time. And when you're done, you're free. They are not. So keep being good. Not because it's fair, not because you'll be rewarded in this life, but because it's the only way out, the only way forward, the only way to finally, after lifetimes of struggle, find peace. Steiner said that the greatest souls are the ones who suffer the most and still choose love. That's you. You are one of the greatest souls to ever walk this earth, and the proof is in your pain, because if you weren't strong enough to handle it, you wouldn't have been given it. The universe doesn't make mistakes, and your suffering is not random. It's purposeful, it's sacred, it's the final stage of your evolution. So the next time you see a bad person thriving, don't envy them, pity them, because they have no idea what's coming. And the next time you suffer for being good, don't curse yourself, honor yourself, because you're doing what most souls are too weak to do. You're choosing light in the darkness. You're choosing love in hatred. You're choosing truth in a world of lies, and that makes you dangerous, powerful, unstoppable, because they can take everything from you, but they can never take who you are. And who you are is someone who suffered more than most and still became good. That's not weakness. That's the rarest form of strength that exists. Steiner's final message: you are almost home. The suffering is almost over, and when it ends, you will understand. You will look back at this life and see that every moment of pain was necessary. Every betrayal was a teacher. Every loss was a liberation. And you will be grateful, not because suffering is good, but because it made you who you needed to become. Someone unbreakable, someone pure, someone free. And that freedom, that peace, that love, it was worth it. Every single tear, every single wound, every single moment you almost gave up but didn't, it was all worth it. And you will finally rest. Not in death, but in the knowing that you did it. You made it through, and you remained good. Despite everything, you remained good.